Hi, I'm Sophie, and today I'm going to tell you the story of Lauren. A story that starts with heartache, wins through betrayal, and ends with something far more powerful than revenge: freedom. It all began on a quiet street called Maple Lane in a little two-bedroom house filled with the smell of Sunday pancakes and bedtime stories. Back then, Lauren's world was small but perfect. Her dad, Chris Bennett Carter, was a mechanic downtown, and her mom, Diane Carter, stayed home to raise her. They didn't have a lot, but they had each other, and that made life rich in all the ways that really counted. But everything changed the year Lauren turned 10. Her dad started coughing, just a little at first, then more. He grew tired, pale, withdrawn. Cancer, they said. It didn't take long. 1 minute she was watching cartoons in the living room. The next, she was wearing a stiff black dress at his funeral, with strangers squeezing her shoulder and saying, "He was a good man." Lauren didn't want their pity. She wanted her dad back. After the funeral, it was just Lauren and her mom for a while. Things got tight. Dinners became boxed mac and cheese or peanut butter on white bread. Her mom got a job at the grocery store and started working late. They clipped coupons, they stretched every dollar. But even with all that, Lauren still felt close to her mom. They were surviving together. Then Gerald showed up. Her mom met him at work. He was some kind of manager. Button-up shirt, Bluetooth in one ear, that slick, I know everything smile. One day, Lauren came home from school to find him sitting on their couch with two girls next to him. "These are Gerald's daughters, Brittany and Kayla," her mom said brightly. "They're going to be your new sisters." Lauren was thrilled. She'd always wanted siblings. But what she got wasn't sisterhood. It was exile. Within weeks of the wedding, Gerald and his daughters moved in. Lauren was bumped into the basement, literally. Brittany and Kayla got the big room upstairs while Lauren's things were crammed into a damp, windowless corner. The girls never tried to include her. They whispered about their real family, laughed when she walked into a room, and treated her like a stranger. Worse, they set her up. Brittany would eat the last cookie, leave the wrapper on the counter, then tell their mom Lauren did it. Kayla would trash the living room and blame her. And their mom, Lauren's mom, believed them every single time. That's when Grandma Ruth became her lifeline. Grandma Ruth, her dad's mom, lived about 15 miles away. Lauren started spending more and more time there. She'd do her homework at the kitchen table while Grandma cooked pot roast or folded laundry. On weekends, her mom would drop her off like a babysitting errand while she went shopping with Gerald and his daughters. And those girls? They got everything: brand name clothes, the newest iPhones, salon haircuts. Lauren got clearance rack jeans and hand-me-downs. Still, she had Grandma. And for a while, that was enough. Then came graduation. Brittany and Kayla had both gone off to college, their tuition fully paid by Mom and Dad. Lauren, now 18, had worked hard, gotten good grades, and applied to a bunch of schools. She was thrilled when she got her acceptance letters. State University, City College, even a smaller private school up north. She carefully spread the envelopes out across the kitchen table, her eyes shining. "So," she said, trying to contain her excitement, "I got into 3 schools. I'm really leaning towards state. The business program is—" "Lauren," Gerald cut in, flat and cold, "we need to talk." Her mom fidgeted with her coffee cup. "Honey, we've been discussing this, and we won't be able to help with college expenses." Lauren blinked. "What do you mean? You paid for Brittany and Kayla." "We spent the college fund on them," Gerald interrupted. "They're our priority." Lauren's jaw dropped. "But I'm your daughter." Her mom finally looked her in the eyes. "You need to be realistic, sweetie. Maybe college just isn't in the cards. You should think about getting a job, saving up, finding a place of your own." In that moment, Lauren realized what she'd been too hopeful to admit all these years. She wasn't part of their family. She was just a leftover reminder of a life her mother had already moved on from. She packed a duffel bag that same day and left. Grandma Ruth welcomed her with open arms. And when Lauren told her what had happened, Grandma didn't hesitate. "I've been saving for years," she said. "Your dad would have wanted this. You're going to college, sweetheart, no matter what." And so she did. She left the state, enrolled in school, and never looked back. Her mother didn't call, didn't write, didn't even ask where she'd gone. But Lauren didn't need her anymore. She had Grandma, and the beginning of something she'd never had before, a life that was hers. I packed my things that same afternoon. Not much, just a suitcase and a duffel bag filled with clothes, a few books, and my high school diploma. As I zipped it shut, it hit me. I wasn't just leaving a house. I was leaving behind the illusion that I mattered to them. When I showed up on Grandma Ruth's porch that evening, her expression shifted the moment she saw my face. No questions, just a tight, warm hug and a quiet, "Come in, baby, let's get you fed." But when I told her what happened, how my mom and Gerald had spent everything on Brittany and Kayla, how they told me college just wasn't for me, her calm cracked, her jaw clenched, her eyes welled, not with sadness, but fury. "Those people," she muttered, shaking her head. "Don't you worry, sweetheart. Your daddy would never have let this happen. I've been saving since the day you were born. That money's yours." I blinked. "Grandma, you've been saving for me?" "All these years," she nodded. "It's not a fortune, but it'll get you where you need to go. You're going to college, Lauren. No one gets to decide your future but you." And just like that, everything changed. I enrolled in a college 2 states away, packed up my grandma's old Honda Civic, and hit the road with a map, a class schedule, and a heart that had been bruised but wasn't broken. I didn't tell my mother where I was going. She didn't ask, not once. For the next 4 years, I poured everything I had into my studies. I called Grandma every Sunday like clockwork, visited on holidays, and always sent her photos. Me on campus, me in the library, me in front of my dorm in the snow. But I never went back to my mom's house. She never picked up the phone, never wrote, never checked if I was alive. After graduation, I came back to my hometown, not because of nostalgia, but because I was offered a job I couldn't pass up. Blackstone Investment Group, one of the most respected financial firms in the region. The starting salary was more than I ever imagined, nearly $85,000 a year plus benefits. I rented a sleek 1-bedroom in the heart of downtown, just 10 minutes from Grandma's house. Life got busy fast. Spreadsheets, client portfolios, 60-hour weeks. And I loved it. Numbers had a rhythm, a logic. Unlike people, numbers didn't lie. They didn't twist your loyalty into debt or dress betrayal up as family. I understood numbers, and it turned out I was good at them. Really good. I started climbing the ladder quickly. First promotion within a year, a second not long after that. My apartment got cozier, my car got safer, and my savings account finally felt like security, not survival. Still, every Sunday I drove the 8.3 miles to Grandma Ruth's house for dinner. She'd make chicken and dumplings or meatloaf with green bean casserole. We'd sit at her old pinewood table and talk about everything and nothing, and we never, not once, mentioned my mother. It was like that part of my life had been sealed off in some dusty attic corner we both agreed never to open again. Then, one Tuesday morning, 5 years after I'd graduated, I got that call. I was in the middle of reviewing quarterly reports when my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. I almost ignored it, but something told me to answer. "Hello? Is this Lauren Carter?" "Yes. Who's this?" "This is Mrs. Langley. I live next door to your grandmother. I'm so sorry to tell you this, but..." Ruth passed away last night in her sleep. I don't remember hanging up. I don't remember how I got home. I just remember the cold stillness that followed. I arranged everything myself: flowers, service, burial plot beside Grandpa. I wore the same black dress Grandma had bought me for my college graduation. The one she said made me look professional and beautiful, and as I stood at her grave, numb, I heard voices behind me, familiar ones. I turned, and there they were: Mom, Gerald, Brittany. Kayla. They looked different, older. My mom's hair had gone gray. Gerald looked bloated and tired. The girls, now in their 30s, wore designer sunglasses and heels too high for a cemetery. "Lauren," Mom said softly, approaching me, "I'm so sorry for your loss." I just stared at her. 7 years of silence. And this was it? "Your grandmother was a wonderful woman," Gerald added, like he actually knew her. I managed a flat "Thanks," then turned away. But after the service, they came back. Mom had tears in her eyes this time. "I know we haven't been close," she began, "but with Ruth gone, we're all that's left. Maybe we can rebuild something?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "We're family," she said, voice trembling. "That has to count for something." And for the first time in years, I felt something shift. Not forgiveness, not trust, but maybe, just maybe, a willingness to see what came next. So I picked up the phone a few days later and called her. "Mom, it's Lauren. I was thinking maybe we could have dinner sometime just to talk." Her voice lit up like a Christmas tree. "That would be wonderful, honey. How about this Sunday?" And just like that, the door creaked open, just a little. But little did I know. Behind it was the same house of cards, ready to collapse all over again. "That would be wonderful. How about this Sunday?" Her voice was cheerful, almost too cheerful, like someone trying too hard to pretend everything was normal. I said yes, more out of curiosity than hope. That first dinner, awkward doesn't even begin to cover it. We sat around the same dining table from my childhood, the one with the tiny nick in the corner where I once dropped a fork during a tantrum over green beans. Now it was polished, candlelit, and surrounded by people trying to make small talk like strangers at a networking event. Brittany and Kayla weren't there. Honestly, I was grateful. The silence between bites was already heavy enough. "So," Gerald finally said, clearing his throat, "you work in finance?" Like he hadn't been married to my mom for nearly 2 decades. "Yeah," I replied. "I'm a senior analyst at Blackstone Investment Group." "That sounds impressive," Mom chimed in, though the blank look in her eyes told me she didn't quite understand what that meant. Still, she smiled politely. I returned the favor. It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible either. So we tried again. Once a month, then twice. Thanksgiving rolled around, then Christmas. I brought pies. They brought old photos. We even laughed a little, mostly at safe memories from years past. Eventually, I met Brittany and Kayla for coffee a few times. Civil, not warm. They were careful with their words, as if trying not to poke the bear that was our shared history. I didn't push. I didn't expect much. And that helped keep the peace. Over time, I started helping out with little things. When their water heater gave out in the middle of winter, I sent $500 to get it replaced. When Gerald needed new tires, I called the shop and had it handled. Nothing extravagant, but enough to make me feel involved, maybe even appreciated. I thought, God help me, I thought we were rebuilding something real. I wanted to believe Mom had finally come to her senses, that she realized what she gave up when she chose convenience over commitment and Gerald's kids over her own. And for a while, it felt like she did. On paper, I was thriving. The investment portfolio I'd been building since my mid-20s was outperforming most of my peers. Grandma's old house had appreciated in value thanks to the school district and the new Whole Foods that had popped up down the block. I'd been promoted again, this time to portfolio manager, and my annual income had climbed well into the six figures. Maybe that's what changed everything. 3 years passed. The routine became familiar. Dinners, birthdays, a few texts here and there. I wasn't naive. I knew things weren't perfect. But I thought maybe they were good enough. Until that Thursday night in March. I drove over to Mom's house for our usual dinner. Nothing fancy, just spaghetti and garlic bread. But when I walked through the front door, something felt off. Brittany and Kayla were already there, sitting side by side at the table. They never came to these dinners anymore. We made awkward small talk for a while. The weather, work, a Netflix show none of us had actually watched. And then Brittany cleared her throat and looked right at me. Actually, Lauren, I wanted to talk to you about something. Here it comes, I thought. I'm planning to start a boutique, clothing and accessories, downtown. It's something I've wanted for years. That's exciting, I said, cautiously optimistic. Downtown's a great location. She smiled. Thanks. The thing is, I need about $100,000 to get started, and I was hoping you could help me out. I nearly choked on my soda. You want me to give you $100,000? Brittany blinked, unfazed. Well, come on, Lauren. You're clearly doing great. You've got the house, the job, the investments. $100,000 probably isn't a big deal for you. I glanced around the table. Mom was watching me carefully. Gerald had that smug, satisfied look that always made my skin crawl. Kayla was nodding, like this was the most logical request in the world. Brittany, I said slowly, that's not pocket change. Even for me, that's a massive investment, and I haven't seen a business plan or anything concrete. So you don't trust me? Her tone sharpened. It's not about trust. It's about being responsible. I didn't build what I have by handing out money based on feelings. Gerald leaned forward, his voice tight. So, helping your sister is irresponsible now? I looked at him, then at my mom. If Brittany wants to start a business, great. But get a loan, find backers, do it the right way. Don't expect me to just bankroll a dream with no data. Mom's face flushed. Lauren, you have more money than you know what to do with. Would it kill you to help us for once? And there it was. For once. As if I hadn't already paid for water heaters and tires. As if the past never happened. I'm not giving you $100,000, I said calmly. Especially not for a half-baked boutique idea. The rest of the dinner was painfully silent. No one made eye contact. No one thanked me for coming. I left before dessert, and then nothing. 2 months of silence, no calls, no texts, no happy Easter. It was like I'd been erased again, like my refusal to write a 6-figure check had invalidated everything we'd rebuilt. I called Mom. She was always too busy. Can't talk right now. I'll call you later. But she never did. Eventually, I stopped trying. Then, one Tuesday evening in May, my phone lit up. Lauren, it's Mom. I was wondering if you'd like to come over for dinner this Sunday. I think we need to talk. I should have known better, but I didn't. And what happened next, that was the final straw. I hesitated before knocking on the door that Sunday. Something in my gut told me not to go, but I brushed it off. Maybe this really was her attempt to make things right. When the door opened, I barely recognized the woman standing in front of me. My mother was all warmth and sugary smiles, pulling me into a hug as if the last 2 months of silence had never happened. Come in, sweetheart, she beamed. It's so good to see you. The house smelled like roast chicken and apple pie. Candles flickered on the table. She even put out the good china, plates we hadn't used since before my father passed. Over dinner, she chatted like nothing had ever gone wrong. She pulled out old photo albums, flipping through pages of birthdays, Halloween costumes, and that one disastrous family camping trip where I got poison ivy on both arms. And for a while, I let myself believe it. I laughed at the memory of trying to cut the dog's hair with kid scissors. I smiled at the picture of me in a giant backpack on my first day of kindergarten. For just a moment, I felt like I was 8 years old again, before everything changed, before Gerald, before being pushed aside like a spare part in my own life. Then she gave me that look, the one I should have remembered, the same rehearsed softness she used whenever she was about to ask for something. "Actually, honey," she said, stirring her coffee like she was gearing up to casually drop a bomb, "Gerald and I are celebrating our 20th wedding anniversary next month." "Oh," I said, my smile tightening. "We'd really like to do something special, a nice party, just family and close friends. Nothing too big." "Sounds lovely." "We're just not in a place right now where we can pull it all together financially, and you're so good with this sort of thing, planning, organizing, and obviously money's not as tight for you." There it was, another request, another reminder that they only knocked on my door when they needed a favor. I should have said no. Every cell in my body was screaming at me to say no. But the truth was, I wanted to feel like I belonged, even if it was a lie. "What did you have in mind?" I asked, already regretting the words. "Oh, nothing extravagant," she said quickly, like she didn't want to scare me off. 30 people or so, somewhere nice, but not too pricey. "I can help with the planning," I said cautiously. She nodded eagerly. "And maybe the cost, too. Just the basics. You're great with budgeting. I trust you completely." I told myself it was different this time, that it wasn't just about the money, that maybe this was how trust got rebuilt, one small favor at a time. "Okay," I said. She lit up like a kid on Christmas morning. "Oh, Lauren, thank you. This means the world to us." So for the next 4 weeks, I poured myself into it. I found a charming little restaurant downtown, Bella's Bistro, that had a private room for 30 guests, with exposed brick, fairy lights, and a baby grand piano tucked into the corner. I put down the deposit, designed the invitations, hired a DJ with a fantastic 80s playlist, even picked out floral centerpieces, cream roses and eucalyptus, classic and elegant. Every few days I called Mom with updates. She gushed over the menu, approved the table settings, and even asked if I could add her favorite dessert, peach cobbler, to the list. 2 days before the big night, I called her with the final details. "Everything's set," I said. "Party starts at 6 p.m. Saturday. I'll swing by a little early to make sure the setup is perfect." There was silence on the other end of the line. Then, "Actually, Lauren, there's been a change of plans." "Oh?" I asked, confused. "You're not invited." At first, I laughed. I thought it was a bad joke, but her voice didn't waver. "I'm serious," she said flatly. "Gerald and I talked it over with the girls. We decided you're not really part of this family." I felt the blood drain from my face. "I planned this entire party," I whispered. "And we appreciate that," she said, without a hint of remorse. "Think of it as your way of making up for not helping Brittany with her business. But this celebration is for people who truly support us." She hung up before I could say another word. And then came the text messages. From Brittany, from Kayla. "Can't believe you thought you'd actually be invited." "Enjoy your Saturday night alone, loser." "You're not family. You never were." I stared at my phone for what felt like hours, and then something inside me shifted. I stopped feeling hurt. I started feeling something else, something stronger, because the truth hit me like a freight train. I held the power. I had booked the venue. I had paid for everything. The contract was in my name. The decorations, my credit card, the DJ, my contact. This wasn't their party. It was mine. I picked up the phone and called Bella's Bistro. "Hi, this is Lauren Carter," I said, my voice calm and clear. "I have a private event booked for this Saturday night." The woman on the other end replied, "Yes, Miss Carter, we've got everything ready for your anniversary party." I smiled. "Actually," I said, "we're going to make a few changes." "Everything's set for your event, Miss Carter," the restaurant manager said warmly. "Great," I replied. "I just have a few small changes." I took a deep breath, the kind you take when you're reclaiming something stolen from you. "First, could you remove the anniversary banner? Replace it with one that says long-awaited freedom in gold script. Big letters." There was a short pause. "Of course," she said, without missing a beat. "We can have that ready for you by Saturday." "And please change the start time. Let's move it up from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. "No problem at all." I hung up, feeling lighter than I had in months. Then I got to work. I started calling everyone I could think of. Friends from college, co-workers, even some folks I hadn't talked to in years. I wasn't begging. I wasn't apologizing. I was inviting them to something bold, something honest. "Hey, Megan, it's Lauren. I know it's short notice, but are you free Saturday afternoon? I'm throwing a party, a very special kind of party." "What kind of party?" she asked, already intrigued. "A freedom party," I said. "The I'm done with toxic people and I'm celebrating kind." There was a beat of silence before she laughed. "That is exactly the kind of party I need right now. I'm in." Out of 20 calls, 15 people said yes immediately. Apparently, there's a quiet army out there just waiting for a reason to toast to cutting ties with drama. Saturday came fast. I arrived at Bella's Bistro early to make sure every detail was perfect. The staff had outdone themselves. The banner shimmered in soft gold, long-awaited freedom hanging right above the DJ booth. Candles flickered on each table. The air smelled like lemon-thyme chicken and roasted vegetables. I changed into my favorite red dress, the one that made me feel like I owned every room I walked into. Not because of the fit or the color, but because I'd bought it for myself with my own money on a day I decided I didn't need anyone's approval to feel beautiful. And then my guests started arriving. Megan brought her boyfriend, Tyler. My college roommate, Rachel Kim, walked in with a bottle of champagne and stories to catch up on. Chris Bennett from work showed up with his wife and a chocolate cake from a bakery across town. The room buzzed with laughter, music, and something else. Relief. That collective feeling of being somewhere safe. Seen. Understood. About 45 minutes in, Megan leaned across the table and grinned. "Okay, I have to ask, what exactly are we celebrating freedom from?" I stood up holding my wine glass and told them the story. All of it. The years of being pushed aside, the family dinners filled with silence, the demand for $100,000, the party I planned, paid for, and was later uninvited from. I didn't hold back. I didn't soften the truth to protect anyone's pride. By the time I was done, jaws were slack. Heads shook in disbelief. Megan raised her glass. "Well then, here's to toxic people removing themselves from your life." Everyone lifted their glasses and echoed, "Cheers!" For the first time in a long time, I felt whole. Not because I had exposed anyone, not because I'd won anything, but because I finally stopped waiting to be accepted by people who never truly saw me. About an hour into the party, the restaurant manager approached, looking a little nervous. "Miss Carter," she said quietly, "there's a woman at the front entrance who says she was supposed to have an anniversary party here tonight. She's quite upset." She's with a large group and insists this is her event. I smiled and set down my glass. Thank you. I'll handle it. I walked to the front of the restaurant where the tall glass windows gave me a crystal clear view of the street. And there they were. My mother, Gerald, Brittany. Kayla, and a small crowd of people in suits and heels standing awkwardly, looking around in confusion. Mom was at the door, banging on the glass, her face red and flustered. I pulled out my phone and called her. She spun around the moment she saw my number, her phone already pressed to her ear. Lauren, what the hell is going on? Why is the restaurant locked? This is supposed to be our anniversary party. I kept my voice calm. Actually, this is my party. I paid for it. I organized it. And I decided who gets to attend. You can't do this, she hissed. I already did, I replied. You said I wasn't part of the family, so I made sure I wasn't part of your celebration. I created my own. Behind her, Gerald was gesturing wildly. Brittany and Kayla were typing furiously on their phones. The other guests looked increasingly uncomfortable. You've ruined everything, Mom snapped. No, I said quietly. You ruined everything the day you started treating me like an ATM and a backup plan. Open this door. Nope. Lauren, you're a vindictive little... I'm someone who finally stopped letting people walk all over me. Goodbye, Mom. I hung up. My friends, who had watched the entire exchange through the windows, burst into applause when I returned. And for the rest of the evening, we laughed, danced, and toasted to the kind of peace you only find when you stop begging for crumbs and start serving your own table. That night, I didn't feel like I'd lost a family. I felt like I'd gained myself. The messages poured in that night like a toxic flood. Kayla's words were the cruelest. No wonder Dad died to get away from you. Brittany chimed in, Hope you enjoyed your tantrum because you'll never have a real family again. Gerald, of course, added his usual self-righteous guilt trip. Your mother is heartbroken. You should be ashamed of yourself. Even Aunt Cheryl sent a passive-aggressive text. I don't know what happened tonight, but your mom is very upset. Cousin Nate asked if I was okay, which was oddly sweet, but even that didn't land. I read every single one of those messages. Not quickly. I gave them time to sting because I needed to know how I truly felt. And then I realized I didn't feel hurt. I felt free. Not a hint of guilt, no sadness. Just this calm, deep relief, like I had finally exhaled after holding my breath for years. So I typed one simple reply and sent it to all 4 of them. You're right. I'll never contact you again. Thank you for finally showing me who you really are. Then I blocked every number. 3 days later, an email popped into my inbox. Subject line, disownment notice. I almost deleted it, but curiosity won. It was from my mom. After your disgraceful behavior at what was supposed to be our anniversary celebration, Gerald and I have decided to formally disown you. You are no longer our daughter. You are not welcome at family events, holidays, or any future gatherings. Do not contact us again. As far as we're concerned, you don't exist. I laughed, actually laughed, out loud in my kitchen. She thought she was punishing me, but really, it was the best gift she could have given me. I replied, Perfect. Thanks for making it official. Have a nice life. That was 6 months ago. Since then, I've been promoted to senior portfolio manager. I'm dating a great guy. Met him through Chris Bennett at work. I joined a book club, started yoga, and volunteer every Saturday at the animal shelter. Grandma's house? It finally feels like mine. I've filled it with plants, books, and peace. Sometimes people ask if I miss having a family. I smile and say, I do have a family, the kind you choose, because relatives share your DNA. But real family, they show up for your soul. Life's most powerful liberation? Choosing yourself. Lauren's story is a masterclass in reclaiming your self-worth when the people closest to you forget it. For many adults, especially those in their 40s, 50s, or beyond, her journey is heartbreakingly familiar. Being the dependable one, the giver, the invisible backbone of a family that only notices you when they need something. But the true lesson isn't about vengeance or bitterness. It's about the quiet, revolutionary power of drawing a boundary. Lauren didn't just walk away from a toxic dynamic. She redefined what family means. She learned that blood may tie people together, but loyalty, respect, and love are what hold them there. When she stopped begging for scraps of affection and built her own life, she gained something priceless: peace. This story reminds us that it's never too late to choose ourselves, to stop over-explaining, to stop shrinking, to build a life rooted in dignity and joy, not guilt and obligation. Whether you've been sidelined, silenced, or simply taken for granted, Lauren's story says this: you don't have to keep sitting at tables where love is conditional. Sometimes the greatest freedom comes not from forgiveness, but from finally letting go.